Hello, so I'm gonna make a video talking about something that I was thinking about earlier and also talking to myself about earlier when I was stood at the bus stop waiting to come home. And it was strange, like I was in a weird mindset, like where I couldn't I don't know exactly where it was, it's hard to explain, but it's almost like I was struggling a little bit in some ways. I don't know, like to find a meaningful thought and actually grasp it. So I kept on like talking to myself because the bus was running really late, so I had to find something. And I don't actually know what that is, but I think I've just done it when I was like watching YouTube, like Scratch or something. I don't know exactly. So yeah, I was at the bus stop for a while, and yeah, so I was just pacing around talking to myself, probably looking a bit like a crazy person to anyone who walked past, which I can't really deny. But yeah, so I was thinking, and I was like, I was just trying to find a thought of which I could maybe follow a little bit and actually derive some sort of conclusion which felt kind of meaningful. So part of the thought did have the word conclusion in that came up quite a bit. So I was thinking about facts of life. So one fact of life is that we die. Okay, so we have to consider this when we're living. But another fact of life is that we all live, for the most part, depending on how you define live, but like live as in um everybody who is having an experience is living. Therefore, we have to take that into consideration as well when we're considering our values. We can't just say, like, I was thinking more along the lines of like nihilism. So it's like, oh well, we're all just gonna die one day anyway. So what's the point in anything? Because that's only taken into account part of the truth, and that's the fact that we all die. But what about the fact that we all live? And then if this is a fact of life, which I am almost certain that it is. Obviously, we can't be 100% certain about anything because we might not exist at all. But I'm going to go down the route that it is a fact of life that we all live. Then we also have to take that into account by saying if we're all going to die, nothing else matters. Doesn't matter whatever we do because we're just going to die one day and be out of existence, and that's that. Because we are in existence and we are living and our actions seem meaningful. And the fact that we're living raises questions about how to live a good life and what is it to actually live, and what should we do in life rather than just saying taking the nihilistic route and saying, oh, well, we're all going to die one day anyway, so nothing matters, because that's only taken into account part of the truth, which is the fact that we die. And that's what I was thinking about, and it was really, really happy thought, as you can tell. Well, it did have a meaningful underpinning, I guess, because it was almost like an attempt to find some sort of meaning, and it wasn't. I was feeling nihilistic at the time because I wasn't. If anything, it was probably more like anxiety or something like that. I don't know. Is it like a lot of overthinking about random things and different thoughts, like just flooding my mind, and I was just trying to find something that I could just grasp onto, and I guess um like I said before, derive a meaningful conclusion. I feel like I did that. That thought gave me a sense of accomplishment. The other thoughts didn't really. I did well, obviously because that's sort of like philosophical. I was trying to get myself into the mindset of being able to do something philosophical. Cause yeah, I wasn't in that mindset. So I started like looking around the world and saying, oh, look at the bus stop. Like that bus stop's pretty cool because like if it wasn't here, then I wouldn't be able to get the bus home, and then obviously I'd be having to walk back to Skelton, and it would just all be a bit of a problem. But yeah, so the bus stop was there, so I was trying to be grateful for the bus stop, and I was like, whoa, look at the sky and on all the surroundings. So I was trying to be a bit appreciative of the environment around me and just like take it in. And this did help to an extent, I guess, but I don't know. I think I think being a human is a very strange experience. It's very, I will say, transient. It changes a lot, so you can't really pin down human nature to one specific state of mind or being, because we there are so many ambiguities within the ontology of humanity, and these change from person to person and within an individual as well. So it's not just that people are different, it's that individuals are different from themselves in different moments and different hours and different days and different seconds even. And so we have to take all that into account when we're looking at human nature. So I think an easy way to sum that up is to say that human nature is transient, but then Of course, we can't just do that because that's a little bit vague, so we have to explore the details of that transience. So, what are the states of which we move between? And well, I guess there's a lot. And we have words for these states like anxiety, depression, happiness, sadness, and I know a lot of those are negative, and that probably says a lot about my state of mind at the minute. Even though I'm quite happy at the minute, I think. Yeah, so we have all of these different emotional states, and I guess states of mind which aren't really emotional, but maybe like a neutral state of mind, and our mind is guided by thoughts, and then maybe we feel focus, which isn't necessarily an emotion, but it's more like a state of being which can induce some sort of emotion. I find that when I'm focusing on something intensely, it feels like my brain has like little vibrations. Like, I don't know what it is, like, but do you know that feeling you get when someone walks over your grave and you get like that shiver up your spine? I get that, but in my brain, and it feels nice. Like, I feel my brain like go, woo, like it has a little shiver. It's so strange. And I get it when I draw for prolonged periods of time, or when I'm ironing sheets at work and like I'm really focusing on getting all the creases out, which is problematic, but not at the same time. It just takes a bit of a long time, which is the problematic part of it, obviously, because I've got to get a lot of things done, but it makes my brain feel nice when I do it. So, yeah, that's hard to explain. I don't know if anyone else gets that. I assume so. It doesn't happen often, but when it does happen, I'm like, whoa, I'm happy. It's almost like the feeling you get when you're about to go into some sort of altered state of consciousness, almost like the induction of a religious experience or something like that. It's that sort of feeling, but I don't know. I don't know if it's religious or spiritual or transcendent or anything like that. But it feels to be that way. So that's one state of mind that I do like having. That's probably maybe one of my favorites. Focus is probably one of my favorites. To be able to just sit and focus on something important, it's really good. Yeah, I really like that feeling. And that's part of the human experience. I don't know if it's universally part of the human experience or if it's just, I'm going to say solipsistically part of the human experience, but like, solipsism isn't really the right word to use there. I'm going to say subjectively part of the human experience, so part of my human experience, part of my experience as a human. Um, Another one is happiness, that's a good one, but those two usually go hand in hand almost. It's like, but I don't know, because these are just words that we use to describe things, aren't they? There's like feelings. So like with the focus, I said it's like a buzz in my mind or a vibrating brain or something like that. That's how it feels to me. It's like just intensely looking at something and being able to observe all the details. And that's sort of like the detailed definition of focus for me anyway. So how would I describe happiness? Happiness is like some form of elation. It's like a positive emotion, and um, I don't know. Well, I guess you could explain it scientifically. So it's like high levels of dopamine in the brain, lots of serotonin. But that doesn't really explain the feeling. That just explains perhaps why the feeling happens, and it doesn't even really explain why the feeling happens because why might be caused by something. So what causes the dopamine levels to go up or the serotonin levels to increase? What causes that to happen? And I guess it's a lot of things, and that's I guess the problem with happiness is that people can derive it from different things, like things that aren't necessarily good in the long term, but may produce short term happiness. Or maybe it just depends on how you define the word as well, because John Stuart Mill defined happiness as something which is more long term, whereas Jeremy Bentham put a lot more emphasis on pleasure and saying that we should seek pleasure in the moment. Whatever causes the greatest good for the greatest number is ultimately desirable, and that's utilitarianism. But happiness could be something that is more long term, like more of a sense of well being. And yeah, it's not necessarily reducible to. I mean, it's not necessarily caused by instantaneous pleasures, rather sacrifices in the moment for the greater good of the future, I guess. So because it has more extension. But Jeremy Bentham does seem to take this into account because he talks about the extension of the pleasure, but then again, no, he talks about the duration of the pleasure, so if one thing produces a better duration of pleasure, then that's that's the thing that we should choose to do. Therefore, can we really say that drugs have a great duration of pleasure if they only last maybe a couple hours at max, depending on what it is, of course, that varies. But if there's something that's going to cause more long-term pleasure or happiness, then surely that's what we should choose according to the hedonic calculus. So, and the hedonic calculus is basically Jeremy Bentham's method of measuring morality, because he believed that morality can be reduced to that which promotes the greatest good for the greatest number. Yeah, so I don't know. Maybe I'm a little bit too critical of Jeremy Bentham sometimes. I feel like there's videos all over the place, and I don't know if I'm happy about that. I don't think I am happy about that. Maybe it's not all over the place. Maybe that's just me thinking. Maybe it's just because the video's all over the place, because my thoughts are all over the place. And I'm not happy about my thoughts being all over the place, but because my thoughts are all over the place, it causes the video to be all over the place, because the video is essentially a compilation of my thoughts. And now it's even more all over the place that I've just articulated that. Okay, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching.